Defeats always lead to changes, and major failures lead to drastic changes. This is exactly what can be observed right now in Real Madrid. 4 lost El Clásicos, elimination from the Champions League by Arsenal, and not a single significant trophy for the entire season. This is an absolute failure by the standards of a club like Real and a personal blow to the ego of Florentino Perez. Additionally, the defeat in the match against Liverpool, which the club had not lost to since 2009. Lost to a completely depleted Milan, which did not even reach the Conference League by the end of the season, and 2 defeats in the 2 Spanish Cup finals. Although until this season, Real Madrid had not lost in finals. The only bright spot is Kylian Mbappe, who became the top scorer in La Liga and won the Golden Boot. Although if he had managed without a 4-month adaptation, had been more composed in finishing his chances throughout the season, he could have scored 60 goals considering how many opportunities he since had, but even so he broke the record for goals scored in his debut season for Real, for which he can only be praised. All this is thanks to Carlo Ancelotti's dedication to giving his players complete freedom in the attacking phase. Games. And when it works, the club wins every possible title. But when it doesn't, it turns into a serious problem. As a result, Carlo Ancelotti, Lucas Vazquez, and Luka Modric leave the club, and in their place come young and hungry for victory guys like Xabi Alonso, Dean Huijsen, Trent Alexander-Arnold, and Alar Carreras. And this is just part of the newcomers. The transfer window will not close soon, or might still be open. The club is on the brink of a major overhaul. Xabi Alonso's coaching style is quite different from Carlo Ancelotti's. He prefers a more systematic approach. It is already reported that the team will play in a formation with 3 central defenders. We last saw this during Zidane's second tenure, and even then as an experiment to get the aging Marcelo to play. Flo Perez is clearly betting big on the Spanish coach. Currently, Real Madrid is the most active player in the transfer market ahead of the Club World Cup. And the only thing the club president insisted on was the departure of Luka Modric. Although Alonso was not against keeping the Croatian for 1 more season, and Lukita himself was willing to accept a salary reduction and reduced playing time. But Perez is adamant. Otherwise, Real continues to complete one transfer after another, strengthening all the vulnerable areas. Throughout the season, Real Madrid managed to score 137 times, which is not very much. It's a little over 2 goals per game, but not as little as it might seem. The goals conceded statistics stand out particularly. 76 across all competitions, 38 of them in the league. Just a moment, this is the best defense of the 23rd to 24th season, where Real conceded only 26 goals. That is why all the transfers currently completed by the Merengues are focused on the defensive line. After all, the team has huge problems with this, especially in the outgoing season. The first one to join was Dean Huijsen. The club paid the buyout clause stipulated in his contract, bypassing potentially long negotiations, so that the Spaniard could play for the white team at the Club World Cup. Dean was recognized as the best player of Bournemouth by his own teammates, and is objectively one of the best young players in the Premier League, if not the best. Since childhood, Dean has been a fan of the Madrid club, and now, finally, he has fulfilled his dream. On his way to joining the club, he had to play in Italy as well as in England. He went to Rome specifically to improve his defensive skills. After all, where better to learn to defend than in Italy? In addition, playing in Spain, he learned how to handle the ball, and in England, he was introduced to intensity and one-on-one play, according to his own words. Besides this, he reads the game well and can move the ball forward, whether with short or long passes. Especially if you look at his highlights, it gives the impression that he does anything but defend. The ball is always at his feet. He is among the 4% of central defenders who are most successful at preventing potential assists. Additionally, he was among the top 7% of central defenders for progressive clearances, and makes almost 5 accurate forward passes every 90 minutes. This indicates that he knows a bit of everything, but does everything very well. Add to this his Spanish passport, so he should have no problems with adaptation. The center of the field is the place where Real Madrid suffered the most due to injuries. That is why so much was placed on Raul Asensio of responsibilities, and it must be said he did his job excellently, but it's clear that he needs more help, especially with the arrival of Xabi Alonso. With his three-center scheme, he needs more center-backs than Ancelotti, especially considering that Real Madrid is a team that plays no less than 50 matches per season. Of course, it is not 100% certain that Alonso will definitely insist on three central players. From his time in Germany, it became clear that Alonso is a quite flexible manager who can adapt to different formations, but it is obvious that he will try to implement the scheme that worked at Bayern. But regardless of the strategy Alonso will follow, Real needs defenders, especially on the flank. Ferland Mendy, due to his chronic injury, misses too many matches, and Fran Garcia is far from the level. Real. Lucas Vazquez completely failed the season and will leave the club in the summer, and it is unknown in what form Carvajal will return. Therefore, two newcomers have already been signed to replace them. Let's start with the left position. A wing-back. Alvaro Carreras is a former player of the Madrid Academy, who moved to Manchester United, then to Benfica, and finally to Real Madrid. The Whites paid 50 million euros in compensation for this guy, but who is he anyway? Such a person. The main strength of Carreras is his defensive play. If you remember the match between Benfica and Barcelona, the one with the dramatic 5-4 score, in that match Carreras did a fantastic job holding off Yamal. In the same way, Carreras restrained Barcelona's young talent, and in playoff, and considering what Yamal has turned into this season, it's a perfect illustration of what Carreras is capable of in defense, but in attack, he is not as good as Grimaldo or Trent. However, that doesn't mean he is as bad as Mendy. He is good at playmaking and can carry the ball forward, but he might have issues with crossing, deliveries, and shots. Again, compared to Grimaldo, who is almost the standard for attacking play for a wingback. Besides them, Trent Alexander-Arnold joins the club. We are much more familiar with this guy than with Carreras. Trent is one of the best attacking defenders in modern football. Shots, crosses, low passes, deliveries, all at the highest level. But when it comes to defensive actions, then here everything is with varying success and often negatively. But what Trent will give Real in the attacking phase of the game completely compensates for his weak defensive work. Besides, the Englishman can be used in midfield, as Klopp did in his last season. And how Trent works with the ball, he could be a good replacement for Toni Kroos in the center. Real Madrid is also seeking reinforcements in the midfield. One of the options being considered is Angelo Stiller. The first time you see this guy, you might think someone is playing around with Photoshop, but no, he really looks like that. It was Toni Kroos who recommended him to the club as a replacement for himself. Stiller plays as a deep-lying playmaker and delivers outstanding statistics. Of course, his passing accuracy doesn't reach the level of Toni Kroos, though it's probably completely unrealistic to look for an exact copy of Kroos. But Stiller is still excellent in passing, and most of his passes are aimed at progression. But in any case, one thing is certain. Real Madrid is the most interesting team to watch in the off-season and in the upcoming competition. No other team in the European elite is undergoing such a radical overhaul. So we will see where all this leads.